Jimin, what did you just say to my mother? Jungkook's voice shook as the entire stadium suddenly fell silent. Tens of thousands of armies were still cheering only seconds earlier, but now nobody understood why Jungkook was staring at Jimin with eyes full of shock and fear. Then, something happened that nobody was prepared for. Jungkook's mother, who had been smiling proudly from the special guests section near the stage, suddenly grabbed her chest. Her face turned pale. One step forward, another step, and then she collapsed. Complete chaos exploded across the stadium. Before we begin this unbelievable story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what you think Jimin could have said that caused everything to change in a single moment. What was supposed to be BTS's most emotional concert of the year suddenly became the beginning of a nightmare that would shake the relationship between JIMIN and JUNGKOOK forever. Nobody knew that for weeks, JIMIN had been carrying a secret connected to Jungkook's family. A secret so dangerous that even RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, and Taehyung had argued about whether it should ever be revealed. But on that night, standing under the bright stadium lights, JIMIN made a decision he could never take back. Seconds later, Jungkook's mother collapsed in front of everyone. And as medical staff rushed toward her, Jungkook turned toward JIMIN with a look none of the BTS members had ever seen before. Because the truth behind this moment was far worse than anyone could imagine. The music had already stopped. The giant screens that moments ago showed smiling faces now displayed confused camera shots as staff members rushed across the stage. Fans stood frozen in their seats, unable to understand what was happening. Jungkook didn't move. His eyes remained locked on JIMIN while medical personnel surrounded his mother only a few meters away. Everything felt unreal. One minute they were celebrating another successful concert. The next minute it felt like the entire world was collapsing. "What did you tell her?" Jungkook asked again, his voice lower this time, but somehow even more frightening. JIMIN swallowed hard. For the first time that night, he looked away. That single reaction made Jungkook's heart sink, because JIMIN never avoided eye contact unless something was seriously wrong. RM immediately stepped between them. "Not here," RM said quietly. "We need to get everyone backstage." But Jungkook barely heard him. His attention kept returning to his mother lying on the floor, surrounded by medical staff. Then he noticed something strange. Even while unconscious, his mother's hand was tightly gripping a folded piece of paper that hadn't been there earlier, a piece of paper that JIMIN immediately recognized. His face lost all color, and that was the moment Taehyung realized exactly what had happened. "No," Taehyung whispered under his breath. "He gave it to her." JIMIN closed his eyes for a brief second. That silence was enough to answer everything, because the paper contained a secret nobody was supposed to see until after the tour was over. A secret connected to Jungkook's family. A secret connected to a decision made years ago. And now it was too late. The damage had already begun. As security guided BTS off stage, thousands of fans watched in confusion. Nobody knew that behind the curtains, the biggest conflict between JIMIN and Jungkook was only beginning. Because while everyone else was worried about Jungkook's mother, Jungkook himself was starting to realize that someone he trusted more than anyone else had been hiding something from him. Something huge, something personal, something that could change the way he saw his entire life. And before the night was over, he was going to demand answers no matter who got hurt in the process. The moment BTS entered the backstage hallway, the atmosphere became even heavier. Staff members rushed in every direction. Managers were speaking urgently through their radios. Medical personnel pushed Jungkook's mother toward a waiting ambulance, while cameras and reporters were kept far away from the scene. But none of that mattered to Jungkook anymore. His entire focus was on JIMIN. "Tell me the truth," Jungkook said. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The coldness in his tone was enough to make everyone stop moving. Even Jin, who normally tried to calm every situation, remained silent. JIMIN stood motionless. His hands trembled slightly at his sides. "Jungkook," he began. "Not now." "Then when?" Jungkook interrupted. "After another lie?" The words hit harder than anyone expected. JIMIN looked genuinely hurt, but Jungkook wasn't finished. Weeks of confusion, unanswered questions, and strange behavior were suddenly crashing together inside his mind. He remembered every moment, every time JIMIN had disappeared to take a private call, every time RM and Suga suddenly changed the subject when he entered a room, every nervous glance Taeyoon exchanged with JIMIN whenever family was mentioned. At the time, Jungkook convinced himself it was nothing. Now he realized everyone had been hiding something. "You all knew," Jungkook said slowly as he looked around the room. "Didn't you?" Nobody answered. That silence felt like a confession. Jungkook laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Unbelievable. RM stepped forward. "Jungkook, listen to me carefully. We were trying to protect you." "Protect me?" Jungkook snapped. "My mother just collapsed in front of 20,000 people." No one could argue with that. The hallway became completely silent again. Then Taeyoon finally spoke. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Jungkook immediately turned toward him. "Then tell me how it was supposed to happen." Taeyoon hesitated. That hesitation said everything, because the truth was far worse than Jungkook imagined. Several weeks earlier, a package had arrived at BTS headquarters. It wasn't addressed to the company. It wasn't addressed to management. It was addressed directly to JIMIN. Inside was an old collection of documents, letters, photographs, and handwritten notes connected to Jungkook's family history. At first, everyone thought it was fake. Then Suga started investigating. What he discovered shocked all of them. Every document was real. Every signature was authentic. Every date matched official records. And buried inside those papers was one revelation that threatened to destroy everything Jungkook believed about his own past. JIMIN had wanted to tell him immediately. RM disagreed. Suga thought they needed more proof. Jin worried about Jungkook's emotional state during the world tour. Taeyoon believed Jungkook deserved the truth no matter how painful it was. For weeks, the members argued behind closed doors while Jungkook remained completely unaware. But tonight, everything changed because JIMIN had made a decision without consulting anyone. He had secretly met Jungkook's mother before the concert, and he had shown her the documents. Now she was in the hospital, and nobody knew whether the collapse had been caused by shock, fear, guilt, or something even worse. Suddenly, a manager rushed toward them. His face was pale. "The ambulance just arrived at the hospital." Everyone looked. "How is she?" Jungkook demanded. The manager hesitated. "She's conscious." A wave of relief briefly crossed Jungkook's face. Then the manager continued. "But the first thing she said after waking was, she wants to speak with JIMIN alone." The entire hallway froze. Jungkook stared at him in disbelief. "What?" "She specifically asked for JIMIN." Jungkook felt his stomach drop. Out of everyone she could have requested, she chose JIMIN. Not her son, not family, not the members. JIMIN. The realization hit him like a punch. Whatever secret existed between them had become much bigger than he ever imagined. And for the first time that night, Jungkook began to fear that the truth waiting at the hospital might be something he wasn't ready to hear. Because if his own mother wanted to see JIMIN before speaking to him, then maybe the secret wasn't just about the past. Maybe it was about him. And maybe everyone around him had known for much longer than he realized. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Rain began falling against the windows of the black van carrying BTS through the city, creating a steady rhythm that only made the silence inside feel heavier. Nobody wanted to be the first to speak. Nobody wanted to be the one who accidentally revealed too much. Jungkook sat near the window with his arms crossed tightly, staring into the darkness outside. Every few minutes, his phone vibrated with messages from staff, friends, and family members who had already heard about the incident online. He ignored every single notification. There was only one thing he wanted right now: the truth. Across from him, JIMIN sat quietly with his head lowered. Normally, if JUNGKOOK was upset, JIMIN would immediately try to comfort him. Tonight was different. Tonight, JIMIN looked like someone carrying a burden he could no longer control. RM noticed it too. "You don't have to do this alone," RM said carefully. JIMIN looked up but didn't answer. Suga sighed and leaned back in his seat. "The problem is that we're already too late." Nobody disagreed, because deep down they all knew the same thing. The secret had reached the point where it couldn't be hidden anymore. The only question now was how much damage it would cause when everything finally came out. 20 minutes later, the van arrived at the hospital. Security quickly cleared a private entrance while reporters gathered outside. The moment JUNGKOOK stepped out of the vehicle, he moved faster than everyone else. He didn't wait for explanations. He didn't wait for staff. He headed straight toward the elevators. JIMIN followed several steps behind. By the time they reached the private floor, a doctor was already waiting. His expression immediately worried everyone. "How is she?" JUNGKOOK asked. The doctor folded his hands together. "Physically stable for now." JUNGKOOK released a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. Then the doctor continued. "But emotionally," he stopped. "She's extremely distressed." JUNGKOOK felt his chest tighten. "Can I see her?" The doctor nodded slowly. "You can, but before that," he looked directly at JIMIN. "She insists on speaking with him first." The hallway instantly became silent again. JUNGKOOK couldn't believe what he was hearing. His own mother was inside that room. She had collapsed in front of thousands of people, and still she wanted to see JIMIN before seeing her son. The hurt on JUNGKOOK's face was impossible to hide. JIMIN noticed immediately. "JUNGKOOK?" "Go," JUNGKOOK interrupted coldly. JIMIN froze. "What?" "You heard him." JUNGKOOK looked away. "Apparently, you're the person she wants." The words sounded simple, but everyone could hear the pain underneath them. For years, JUNGKOOK had trusted JIMIN with everything, his fears, his insecurities, his dreams. Yet now he felt completely shut out of something involving his own family. JIMIN hesitated for several seconds before finally walking toward the hospital room. As the door closed behind him, JUNGKOOK remained frozen in place. Taeyoung quietly stepped closer. "You okay?" JUNGKOOK laughed bitterly. "Do I look okay?" Taeyoung didn't answer, because honestly, JUNGKOOK looked worse than anyone had seen in years. Not angry, not emotional, just deeply hurt. The kind of hurt that happens when trust starts breaking apart. Inside the hospital room, JIMIN stopped beside the bed. JUNGKOOK's mother looked far weaker than she had during the concert. Her face was pale, her eyes were red from crying. Yet despite everything, she looked relieved to see him. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. JIMIN swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." She slowly shook her head. "No." Her voice trembled. "I'm the one who should be sorry." JIMIN felt his heart sink. Hearing those words confirmed his worst fears, because if she was apologizing, then she had already accepted that the secret could no longer remain hidden. "Does JUNGKOOK know?" she asked. JIMIN looked down. "Not yet." Tears immediately appeared in her eyes. "Then you don't have much time left." JIMIN felt a chill run through his body. "What do you mean?" She reached toward the bedside table with shaking hands and pulled out another envelope, one that looked even older than the documents JIMIN had shown her. One that just might hold the answers. One that just might hold the answers to everything. "Because there's something in here that none of you found." JIMIN stared at the envelope. His stomach twisted instantly. "What is it?" JUNGKOOK's mother looked directly into his eyes. "The real reason I hid the truth from my son." The room suddenly felt smaller, colder, more dangerous. JIMIN slowly accepted the envelope. He could already feel how old the paper inside was. Whatever was hidden there had been kept secret for years, maybe decades. "If JUNGKOOK reads it," JIMIN began. "Everything changes," she finished. Outside the hospital room, JUNGKOOK sat alone in the hallway while the other members waited nearby. Minutes felt like hours. Every second increased his frustration. Every second deepened his suspicion. Then the hospital room door finally opened. JIMIN stepped outside, holding the envelope in his hand. His face had gone completely pale. And the moment JUNGKOOK saw his expression, he knew something terrible had just happened. Because JIMIN looked like a person who had just learned a truth so devastating that it changed everything he thought he knew. And before anyone could ask a single question, JIMIN whispered 5 words that made everyone's blood run cold. The documents were incomplete.
The moment those words left JIMIN's mouth, nobody in the hallway moved. It felt as if time itself had stopped. RM stared at him. Jin's face immediately turned pale. Suga slowly lowered his head. Taehyung looked directly at the envelope in JIMIN's hand as if it were some kind of ticking bomb, but JUNGKOOK only focused on one thing. "Incomplete," he repeated. His voice was dangerously calm. "What does that mean?" JIMIN opened his mouth, but no words came out. For perhaps the first time in years, he genuinely did not know what to say. The truth inside that envelope had shaken even him. JUNGKOOK stepped forward. "Answer me." The tension immediately exploded through the hallway. Nurses passing nearby instinctively avoided eye contact. Even hospital staff could feel something was wrong. "JIMIN," RM said quietly, "maybe we should discuss this somewhere private." JUNGKOOK laughed again, that same painful laugh that nobody wanted to hear. "Private." He looked at RM. "You mean like all the other secrets?" Nobody answered. The silence itself felt guilty. JUNGKOOK's eyes moved from RM to Jin, from Jin to Suga, from Suga to Taehyung, and finally back to JIMIN. "How long?" he asked. "How long have all of you been hiding things from me?" Jin looked away first. Suga followed. That was enough. JUNGKOOK's chest tightened. Because now he knew the answer was longer than he wanted to hear. Much longer. JIMIN finally stepped closer. "It started a few weeks ago. Don't lie to me." JUNGKOOK's response came instantly. "Not anymore." JIMIN froze. JUNGKOOK pointed directly at the envelope. "Whatever is inside that paper wasn't created a few weeks ago." Nobody could argue with that. The envelope looked old, very old, years old, maybe even older than BTS itself. The realization only made JUNGKOOK angrier. "What is it?" he demanded. "JIMIN, what is inside that envelope?" JIMIN looked down at it. His fingers tightened slightly around the paper. He remembered the words JUNGKOOK's mother had spoken only minutes earlier. "The real reason I hid the truth from my son." Those words continued echoing inside his mind. Because until now, everyone believed they had already uncovered the secret. They were wrong. They had only discovered part of it, and the missing piece changed everything. "I think," JIMIN started carefully, "I think your mother should tell you herself." JUNGKOOK's patience finally snapped. "Stop deciding things for me." The shout echoed through the hallway. Several nurses looked over immediately. RM stepped forward again, but JUNGKOOK barely noticed. Years of trust, loyalty, and friendship were colliding with betrayal all at once. "Do you have any idea what this feels like?" JUNGKOOK asked. His eyes were fixed on JIMIN. "Everyone keeps saying they're protecting me. Everyone keeps making decisions for me, but nobody actually tells me anything." JIMIN looked genuinely hurt. "That was never my intention." "Then what was?" JUNGKOOK fired back. "Because right now my mother is in a hospital bed, you're carrying some secret envelope, and every person I trust looks guilty." Nobody spoke. The truth was too complicated, too dangerous, too painful. Suddenly the hospital room door opened behind them. Everyone turned. JUNGKOOK's mother stood there. She was weak, pale, supported by a nurse, but she was standing. "Enough," she said softly. Her voice wasn't loud, yet everyone heard it immediately. JUNGKOOK rushed toward her. "Mom, you shouldn't be standing." She shook her head. "I need to do this." Her eyes slowly moved toward JIMIN, then toward the other members. Finally, they settled on JUNGKOOK. Tears immediately appeared in her eyes. "I'm sorry." JUNGKOOK felt a strange fear growing inside him. "Why are you apologizing?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at the envelope still in JIMIN's hand. "Give it to him." The entire hallway froze. Even JIMIN looked surprised. "Are you sure?" he asked. She nodded. "He deserves the truth." JUNGKOOK stared at both of them. His heart was beating faster now. Every instinct told him that whatever was inside that envelope would change his life forever. JIMIN slowly handed it over. The paper felt surprisingly heavy in JUNGKOOK's hands, as if years of secrets were physically trapped inside. Nobody spoke while he opened it. The hallway became completely silent. JUNGKOOK carefully unfolded the first document, then the second, then a faded handwritten letter. At first, he didn't understand what he was looking at. His eyes scanned the words once, twice, 3 times, then suddenly his entire body went rigid. "No," he whispered. Everyone heard it. His hands started trembling. "No." Jimin immediately knew he had reached the part that mattered, the part that changed everything. JUNGKOOK continued reading. Every line seemed to drain more color from his face. Every sentence shattered another piece of certainty he had carried his entire life. Finally, his hands dropped to his sides. The papers nearly slipped from his fingers. Nobody dared move. Nobody dared speak. Then JUNGKOOK slowly lifted his head and looked directly at his mother. There were tears in his eyes now, not tears of sadness, tears of disbelief. "This isn't true." His mother immediately began crying. That reaction alone answered the question. JUNGKOOK took a step backward, then another. "Tell me this isn't true." His voice cracked, but she couldn't do it. She couldn't lie anymore, and that silence was more devastating than any confession. JUNGKOOK felt his world collapsing beneath him, because according to the letter he had just read, one of the most important stories he had believed about his childhood was completely false. Not partially false, completely false. And even worse, the people standing around him had unknowingly been chasing the wrong secret all along. The truth hidden in the envelope wasn't just connected to his family. It was connected to someone standing in that hallway, someone he trusted, someone who had become one of the most important people in his life. JUNGKOOK slowly turned toward Jimin. His expression terrified everyone because it wasn't anger anymore. It was shock, pure shock. "You," he whispered. Jimin's heart stopped. "JUNGKOOK." JUNGKOOK stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Then he said the one sentence nobody expected to hear. "My mother knew you before BTS." And the moment those words echoed through the hallway, every person present realized the nightmare had only just begun. Nobody spoke for several seconds after JUNGKOOK said those words. The silence felt impossible, heavy, suffocating. Even the sounds of the hospital seemed distant now. JUNGKOOK continued staring at Jimin while gripping the old letter so tightly that the paper began to crumple in his hand. Jimin himself looked frozen, because although he had discovered many shocking details over the past few weeks, this was not one of them. This was new, completely new. "What are you talking about?" Jimin finally asked. His voice sounded weaker than usual. JUNGKOOK immediately held up the letter. "It says right here." His hands were shaking. "My mother met you years before either of us became trainees." Jimin blinked, once, twice. His mind raced through every childhood memory he could remember. School, family gatherings, old neighborhoods, vacations. Nothing, absolutely nothing connected him to JUNGKOOK's family. "That's impossible," Jimin said. JUNGKOOK laughed bitterly. "That's exactly what I thought." The other members quickly moved closer. RM carefully accepted the letter from JUNGKOOK and began reading it himself. The deeper he read, the more concerned he looked. Jin leaned over his shoulder. Suga followed. Taehyung stepped closer. One by one, their expressions changed. "This can't be right," Jin whispered. "But it is," JUNGKOOK's mother replied from behind them. Everyone turned toward her. Tears continued running down her face. "It's true." Those two words hit the group harder than anyone expected. Jimin felt as though the floor had disappeared beneath him. "No," he said. "There must be some mistake." JUNGKOOK's mother slowly shook her head. "I never wanted you to find out this way." Jimin stared at her. "Find out what?" For the first time since leaving her hospital bed, she hesitated. Fear appeared in her eyes, real fear. The kind of fear a person carries for years, decades even. "Because if I tell you everything," she whispered, "there's no going back." RM immediately understood the problem. Whatever secret she was protecting wasn't only affecting JUNGKOOK anymore. It now involved Jimin too, and that changed everything. "We need somewhere private," RM said firmly. This time nobody argued. 20 minutes later they gathered inside a secured conference room on the hospital's upper floor. The room was simple, a large table, several chairs. Bright fluorescent lights overhead, yet somehow it felt more intimidating than any stage BTS had ever performed on. JUNGKOOK sat directly across from his mother. Jimin sat beside him. The other members remained nearby, uncertain whether they should even be present for what was about to happen. JUNGKOOK placed the old letter on the table. "Start from the beginning." His voice was calm now, too calm, the kind of calm that usually came before something exploded. His mother closed her eyes briefly, gathering strength, gathering courage. 20 years ago, she began, I made a decision that changed several lives. Everyone listened carefully. At the time, I believed I was helping someone. Her voice trembled. Instead, I may have ruined everything. Jimin felt an uncomfortable sensation forming in his chest. Every instinct told him that somehow this story was connected to him. He just didn't know how yet. Who? Jungkook asked. Who were you helping? His mother slowly looked toward Jimin. The room instantly became tense. Jimin's heartbeat accelerated. Your family, she said quietly. Jimin stopped breathing for a moment. What? The word escaped before he could stop it. Jungkook looked equally stunned. His family, his mother nodded. Before either of you were born, our families knew each other. The room exploded with confusion. That's impossible, Jimin said immediately. My parents never mentioned your family. Because they didn't know the full story either. The answer only created more questions. Suga leaned forward. Then what exactly happened? Jungkook's mother looked down at her hands. Her fingers trembled slightly. There was an accident. The word immediately caught everyone's attention. Accidents rarely appeared in stories like this without consequences. What kind of accident? RM asked carefully. Her eyes filled with tears again. One that forced people to make impossible choices. Jimin felt cold. Very cold. Something inside him already knew this wasn't going anywhere good. After the accident, she continued, certain records were changed. Jungkook frowned. Records? Official records. Nobody spoke. She slowly reached into her purse and removed another folded document, older than the first, more worn, more fragile. She carefully placed it onto the table. I've carried this for years. The room remained silent as Jungkook unfolded it. The moment his eyes reached the first page, his expression changed again. This time it wasn't shock. It was confusion, pure confusion. What is this? He asked. Jimin leaned closer. Then his own face went pale because staring back at them was an official document containing both their names, not their BTS profiles, not trainee information, something much older, something dating back to their earliest childhood records. This makes no sense, Jimin whispered. Jungkook could only nod. Because according to the document, there was a connection between their families that should not have existed. A connection hidden so deeply that neither of them had ever heard about it. Taehyung slowly stood up from his chair. Wait! His voice sounded different, concerned, uneasy. Everyone looked at him. I recognize that name. The room froze. Jungkook immediately turned toward him. What name? Taehyung pointed toward the bottom of the document. That witness signature. Nobody had even noticed it before. Now every eye moved toward the page. The signature sat near the bottom corner, faded but still visible. Taehyung stared at it with growing disbelief. That's impossible. What is? Jungkook demanded. Taehyung swallowed hard. Because the person who signed this. He paused. My father used to talk about him. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Who was he? RM asked. Taehyung's answer immediately made the situation even worse. He disappeared. The room went completely silent. Disappeared. Jin repeated. Taehyung nodded slowly. Years ago. Suga frowned. How many years? Taehyung looked directly at Jungkook, then at Jimin. Right around the time this document was created. Suddenly the mystery wasn't getting smaller, it was growing larger, much larger. And for the first time, everyone began to suspect that Jungkook's family secret might be connected to something far bigger than a personal misunderstanding. Something involving multiple families, multiple lies. And perhaps someone who had vanished without a trace decades earlier. Meanwhile, sitting quietly at the end of the table, Jungkook's mother closed her eyes, because the conversation was heading exactly where she had feared it would, toward a truth she had spent half her life trying to bury. And the deeper they dug, the more dangerous that truth was becoming. The conference room suddenly felt smaller than before. Every person inside was now staring at the faded signature on the document as if it might somehow explain everything. But instead of answers, it only created more confusion. Jungkook rubbed his forehead and looked at Taehyung. Your father talked about him. Taehyung nodded slowly. Not often, just a few times when I was younger. Who was he? Jimin asked. Taehyung leaned back in his chair, trying to remember details he had not thought about in years. I don't remember his full story. I only remember my father saying there was a man who disappeared after becoming involved in something he shouldn't have been involved in. Suga immediately frowned. That's not exactly specific. I know. Taehyung looked frustrated. I was a kid. I wasn't paying attention. RM crossed his arms. Did your father ever mention a name? Taehyung nodded. A surname. Everyone waited. Park. The room instantly went silent. Jimin felt his stomach tighten. Park, his surname. The realization hit everyone at the same time. Jungkook slowly turned toward Jimin. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them knew what to say, because with every new detail, the connection between their families seemed to grow deeper. more complicated, more impossible to ignore. "This has to be a coincidence," Jin said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Jungkook's mother remained silent for several moments, then she shook her head. "It wasn't a coincidence." Every eye immediately moved toward her. "You know who he was," RM said. It wasn't a question. She looked down at the table. "Yes." The answer sent another wave of tension through the room. "Then tell us," Jungkook demanded. His patience was almost gone. "Please." For a brief moment, everyone saw something unexpected in Jungkook's eyes. Fear. Real fear. Because despite everything, part of him still hoped there was some explanation that would make all of this less painful, less personal, less destructive. His mother slowly lifted her gaze. "The man who disappeared was connected to Jimin's family." Jimin immediately sat forward. "Connected how?" She hesitated. "He was supposed to protect something." Nobody understood. "Protect what?" Suga asked. Again she hesitated. Again fear appeared in her eyes. Jimin noticed it, so did Jungkook. Whatever answer she was avoiding had to be important, very important. Finally she whispered, "A child." The room froze, nobody moved, nobody spoke. "A child," Jungkook repeated. She nodded. "Yes." RM exchanged a glance with Suga. Jin looked confused. Taehyung seemed equally lost, but Jimin felt a strange chill spreading through his body. "Which child?" he asked quietly. His mother looked directly at him. "You." The word hit like an explosion. Jimin stopped breathing. Jungkook's eyes widened. "What?" Several voices spoke at once. The room instantly erupted into confusion. "That doesn't make any sense." "Protect him from what? Who was this man?" Questions flew from every direction, but Jimin barely heard any of them. His mind had become trapped on a single sentence. "A child. You." He stared at Jungkook's mother as if she had suddenly become a stranger. "Why would someone need to protect me?" he asked. She closed her eyes. "Because after the accident, there were people searching for answers." Nobody understood, not fully, not yet. "Answers about what?" RM asked carefully. Her breathing became heavier. "About what really happened that night." Another mystery, another piece of information without context. Jungkook finally slammed his hand onto the table. The sharp sound made everyone jump. "Enough!" The room immediately fell silent. Jungkook looked exhausted, angry, hurt. "Every answer creates 10 more questions." Nobody could disagree with him. "Tell us the whole story." His voice cracked slightly. "No more pieces, no more half-truths." His mother looked like she wanted to, she truly did, but something was stopping her, some invisible barrier she had carried for years. Then suddenly her phone rang. Everyone turned toward the sound. The timing felt strange, almost wrong. She stared at the screen. Instantly all color disappeared from her face. Jimin noticed first. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer. Her hand began trembling. Jungkook stood up. "Mom!" Still no answer. Slowly she lowered the phone onto the table. The screen remained lit. RM leaned forward. Then his expression changed too. "Who is that?" Jin asked. Nobody answered. Finally Jungkook grabbed the phone himself. The moment he saw the screen, his blood ran cold. It wasn't a name, it wasn't a number. It was a photo, an old photo. A photo showing 3 adults standing together beside a small child. One adult was clearly Jungkook's mother. The second adult was someone Jimin immediately recognized from old family albums, his father. But it was the third person that made everyone's heart stop. Because according to everything they had learned tonight, that person was supposed to be impossible. He was supposed to be missing, gone, disappeared for decades, yet there he was, smiling directly at the camera. "Where did this come from?" Jungkook whispered. His mother looked terrified now, truly terrified. "I don't know." Nobody believed that answer. Not because she was lying, but because she looked genuinely confused, genuinely frightened. Then the phone vibrated again. A message appeared beneath the photo. 4 simple words. 4 words that instantly transformed the mystery into something far more dangerous. The message read, "He knows the truth." Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The room became silent enough to hear every breath. Then another message arrived. This time there were only 3 words. "I'm coming back." And at that exact moment, Jungkook's mother looked like she had just seen a ghost. Because whoever sent those messages was not supposed to exist anymore. And if they truly were coming back, then every secret buried for the last 20 years was about to be exposed. Nobody in the room moved after the second message appeared on the screen. The silence felt unnatural now, as if even the air itself had stopped flowing. Jungkook continued staring at the phone in his hand. The words "I'm coming back" remained illuminated on the display like a warning, a threat, a promise. He looked at his mother. "Who sent this?" His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the tension underneath. She looked away immediately. That reaction alone was enough to tell them she knew more than she was admitting. Mom! JUNGKOOK stepped closer. Who sent this? Tears formed in her eyes again. I don't know. This time nobody believed her, not even JIMIN, because fear had completely taken over her expression. Not confusion, not uncertainty. Fear. The fear of someone who recognized exactly what she was seeing. Suga slowly leaned forward. Let's assume the messages are real. RM nodded. Then whoever sent them has access to the old photographs. And knows about the documents, Jin added. Taehyung crossed his arms. Which means they've been watching this situation. The realization immediately made everyone uncomfortable. Because if someone knew about the documents, then they might also know about the secret investigation BTS had unknowingly become part of over the last few weeks. JUNGKOOK lowered the phone onto the table. His thoughts were racing now. Every new answer seemed to reveal an even bigger mystery underneath. This person, he said, the one in the photo. He pointed toward the smiling man standing beside Jimin's father. That's the man who disappeared. His mother nodded slowly. Nobody missed the way her hands trembled as she answered. Yes. What's his name? RM asked. For several seconds she remained silent. Then she finally whispered it. Kang Min-seok. Nobody recognized the name except Taehyung. His eyes immediately widened. That's him. Everyone turned toward him. You're sure? Jin asked. Taehyung nodded. My father mentioned him several times. The room became tense again. What did he say? Jimin asked. Taehyung looked uncomfortable. Not much, just that Min-seok vanished after an investigation. Investigation into what? JUNGKOOK demanded. I don't know. Taehyung shook his head. But my father always said the same thing. Everyone waited. He said some truths are more dangerous than lies. Nobody spoke. Sentence lingered heavily in the room. JUNGKOOK hated it. He hated mysterious answers, he hated riddles, he hated secrets, and tonight he was drowning in all three. I'm done with half-truths, he said firmly. He looked directly at his mother. What happened 20 years ago? She stared at him. For a moment it looked like she might finally tell them everything. Then suddenly someone knocked on the conference room door. Everyone jumped. The timing felt wrong, too wrong. RM immediately stood up. Who is it? No answer came from outside. Another knock followed. Slow, deliberate, 3 taps, then silence. The room instantly became tense. Hospital staff wouldn't knock like that. Neither would security. RM exchanged a glance with Suga. Something felt off. Stay here, RM said. He walked carefully toward the door. JUNGKOOK stood as well. So did Taehyung. Nobody wanted RM facing whatever was outside alone. RM slowly reached for the handle. The room remained completely silent. Then he opened the door. Nobody was there. The hallway outside was empty. RM frowned. What? Jin asked. RM stepped into the hallway and looked around. Nothing, no nurses, no doctors, no visitors, nobody. Then his eyes noticed something lying on the floor directly outside the room, a small brown envelope. His expression immediately changed. RM, Suga called. RM slowly picked it up. The envelope had no name, no return address. Nothing except a single handwritten sentence on the front. He stared at it for several seconds before returning inside. JUNGKOOK immediately noticed the look on his face. What is it? RM handed him the envelope. JUNGKOOK looked down. The moment he read the writing, his blood ran cold. The sentence was simple. If you want the truth, open this alone. Nobody spoke. JIMIN felt his stomach twist. Whoever was behind this clearly knew exactly what was happening inside the room. That realization was terrifying. How would they know we're here? Jin asked. Nobody answered because nobody had a good answer. JUNGKOOK slowly turned the envelope over. It was sealed. Thick, something was definitely inside. Don't open it, Jimin said immediately. Everyone looked at him. Why? JUNGKOOK asked. Jimin hesitated. Because this feels wrong. JUNGKOOK stared at him. Everything tonight feels wrong. He wasn't angry anymore. He sounded exhausted, worn down. At least this might give us answers. Before anyone could stop him, JUNGKOOK tore the envelope open. Several photographs slid onto the table. The room instantly fell silent. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. There were 5 photos in total. Each one looked old. Each one appeared to have been taken around the same time period. JUNGKOOK picked up the first photograph. His face immediately changed. Then he grabbed the second, then the third. With every image, his expression became darker, more confused, more disturbed. JUNGKOOK, Jimin asked quietly. No answer. JUNGKOOK slowly placed the photographs on the table so everyone could see them. The room exploded with shock because every single photograph contained Jimin. Not adult Jimin, child Jimin, photos that should not have existed, photos that clearly predated BTS, Photos taken years before Jimin and Jungkook officially met. Yet that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was who appeared beside him. Jungkook, also a child. Nobody spoke. Nobody could. The photographs showed them together, smiling, playing, standing side by side, as if they had known each other long before becoming trainees, long before BTS, long before everything. "No," Jimin whispered. He grabbed one of the pictures. "No, that's impossible." His hands started shaking. He had absolutely no memory of any of this. Neither did Jungkook. Yet there they were, children together, happy, familiar, connected. The room felt colder than ever. Then Taehyung noticed something written on the back of one photo. "Wait!" Everyone looked at him. He flipped the image over. A short handwritten message appeared beneath the faded ink. The handwriting looked old. The message was addressed to someone, to Jungkook. It read, "One day they'll make you forget." The moment those words were spoken aloud, Jungkook's mother began crying uncontrollably. And for the first time all night, nobody asked why, because her reaction told them everything. She had seen that message before. Years ago, long before tonight, long before BTS, long before any of them realized their lives had been connected by secrets hidden far deeper than anyone imagined. And as Jungkook stared at the childhood photograph in his hand, a terrifying possibility began forming in his mind. What if the biggest secret wasn't something his mother had hidden from him? What if it was something he had forgotten? And if that was true, then the person sending these messages might know exactly what had been erased from both his and Jimin's past. The conference room remained completely silent as everyone stared at the photographs spread across the table. Jungkook couldn't take his eyes off them. His fingers slowly traced the edge of one picture showing two young boys standing beside a playground. One of them was clearly him. The other was unmistakably Jimin. They looked comfortable together, familiar, close. Not like strangers meeting for the first time years later as trainees. The image contradicted everything Jungkook remembered about his life. And that terrified him more than anything else that had happened tonight. "I don't remember this," he whispered. Nobody answered, because Jimin looked equally shaken. He picked up another photograph. In this one, the two children were sitting on a park bench sharing ice cream. They were laughing, smiling, acting like best friends. Jimin felt sick. "I don't remember any of it either." His voice sounded distant, weak, lost. RM slowly sat back in his chair. "Memory loss doesn't just happen for no reason." Suga immediately nodded. "Especially shared memory loss." The room became tense again, because everyone was starting to think the same thing. If neither Jimin nor Jungkook remembered these events, then either something extraordinary had happened, or someone had intentionally hidden the truth from them. Jungkook's mother suddenly covered her face with both hands. Her shoulders began shaking. "Mom!" Jungkook immediately stood. "Look at me." She couldn't. The guilt had become too heavy, too obvious. "Did you know?" Jungkook asked. "Did you know these photos existed?" Her silence answered him. Jungkook felt his chest tighten. "How long?" Still no answer. "How long?" he repeated louder. Finally she whispered, "Years." The room froze. Jimin looked away. Taehyung closed his eyes briefly. Even RM seemed stunned. Years, not weeks, not months. Years. Jungkook took a slow step backward. The betrayal he felt earlier suddenly became much worse. Because now it wasn't just about a hidden family secret. It was about part of his own childhood. A part someone had deliberately kept from him. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why would anyone hide this?" Tears streamed down his mother's face. "Because we thought we were protecting you." Jungkook immediately laughed. The sound was painful, empty. "There it is again." Nobody moved. "Everyone keeps saying that." His eyes were red now. "Protecting me." He pointed at the photographs. "Does this look like protection?" Nobody answered. There was no answer that could make sense of this. Then Jimin suddenly noticed something strange. One of the photographs contained more than just the two boys. There was someone standing in the background. A figure partially hidden behind a tree, easy to miss, impossible to ignore once seen. "Wait!" Everyone turned toward him. Jimin held up the photo. "Who's that?" The group leaned closer. The figure was blurry due to the age of the image, but definitely visible. A man watching them. Jungkook's mother immediately went pale, much paler than before. "No," she whispered. Her reaction immediately caught everyone's attention. "You know him," Suga said. She shook her head too quickly. "No." Nobody believed her. Not this time. RM carefully took the photograph and studied it. "You recognized him." She remained silent. The silence confirmed everything. "Who is he?" Jungkook demanded. His patience was gone, completely gone. His mother looked trapped, cornered. Then she whispered something so quietly that almost nobody heard it, almost. Min Seok. The room instantly erupted. What? Taehyung stepped forward. That's Min Seok, she nodded slowly. Her eyes remained fixed on the photograph. He always watched from a distance. Jimin felt a chill run through his entire body. Why? She looked at him. Because he promised to protect you. The room froze again. Protect him. The same word kept appearing. Protection. Protection from what? Protection from whom? Jungkook felt like he was losing his mind. Every answer only made the mystery bigger. Enough. He slammed both hands onto the table. I want the entire truth. Nobody spoke. Right now. His mother stared at him. For the first time all night, something changed inside her expression. Resignation. As if she had finally accepted that there was no escape left. No more delays, no more secrets. She slowly reached into her purse one final time. Everyone watched carefully. This time she removed a small silver key, old, worn, clearly important. She placed it gently on the table. Nobody spoke. What is that? Jin asked. Her eyes filled with tears again. The last piece. The room became completely silent. Jungkook stared at the key. Last piece of what? She took a deep breath. Everything. Nobody liked the sound of that answer, not one bit. 20 years ago, she said quietly, before Min Seok disappeared, he left something behind. Jimin felt his heart pounding harder. What? She looked directly at him, then at Jungkook. A storage box. RM frowned. Where? She pointed toward the key. Only this can open it. The atmosphere immediately changed. The mystery that had been scattered across letters, photographs, and fragmented memories suddenly had a destination. A physical place. A place where answers might actually exist. What's inside? Jungkook asked. His voice sounded almost desperate now. His mother closed her eyes. I never opened it. Nobody expected that answer. You never looked? Suga asked. She shook her head. I was afraid. Jungkook stared at her. Afraid of what? Her answer came instantly. The truth. Nobody spoke after that, because deep down they all understood. Every person in the room was afraid of the same thing, not the mystery, not the missing years, not even Min Seok himself. They were afraid of what would happen once the truth finally came out. Then suddenly Jungkook's phone vibrated. The sound shattered the silence. Everyone looked toward him. Slowly he pulled the phone from his pocket. A new message had arrived. Unknown sender. Nobody spoke while he opened it. The moment he read the message, his face went completely pale. Jungkook? Jimin asked. Jungkook didn't answer. He simply turned the screen toward the others. The message contained only one sentence. One sentence that instantly transformed the entire situation from a family secret into something far more dangerous. The message read, Open the box if you want JIMIN to stay alive. And as everyone stared at those words, they finally realized someone wasn't just watching anymore. Someone was actively controlling the game. And whoever that person was, they had just declared war. Nobody in the conference room spoke after reading the message. The atmosphere changed instantly. Up until now, everything had felt like a mystery buried in the past. Painful, confusing, and emotional, but still connected to old secrets. This was different. This was happening now. Someone knew where they were. Someone knew about the key. Someone knew about the box. And worst of all, someone specifically mentioned Jimin. Jungkook stared at the screen as if the words might disappear if he looked long enough. They didn't. Open the box if you want JIMIN to stay alive. The message remained there, cold and undeniable. This isn't a joke, RM said quietly. Nobody disagreed. Suga immediately stood up. How did they get his number? A lot of people have my number, Jungkook answered automatically, but even he knew that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was the timing. The sender had contacted him seconds after the key appeared, which meant they were either watching the room directly or receiving information from someone nearby. That realization made everyone uncomfortable. Taehyung slowly looked around the conference room. The walls, the ceiling, the air vents. Suddenly every corner felt suspicious. We're being watched, he said. Jungkook's mother looked terrified, more terrified than she had during the collapse. I told you, she whispered. I told you this wasn't over. Jimin immediately looked at her. You knew this could happen. She hesitated. Not this exactly. Then what? Jimin pressed. Tears formed again in her eyes. I knew someone would eventually come back. Nobody liked that answer, not even a little. RM grabbed the phone from Jungkook and studied the message carefully. No number. Blocked, Jin asked. RM nodded. Completely hidden. Suga cursed under his breath. Whoever was behind this clearly knew what they were doing. Jungkook slowly sat down, his head felt like it was spinning. For hours he had been chasing answers. Now every answer seemed to create new dangers, worse dangers, and somehow Jimin was at the center of all of them. Why Jimin? Jungkook finally asked. Nobody answered immediately because nobody knew, not really. Think about it, Jungkook continued. Every clue keeps leading back to him. He pointed toward the photographs. The missing man protected him, then toward the documents. The records involve his family, then toward the message. And now someone is threatening him. The room fell silent again because Jungkook wasn't wrong. Jimin looked down. For the first time that night, a terrible possibility entered his mind. What if this wasn't really about Jungkook at all? What if he was the real target? The thought made him feel sick. Suddenly another memory surfaced, something small, something he had ignored weeks earlier. His expression immediately changed. Taehyung noticed first. What? Jimin looked up. I think. He hesitated. I think someone has been following me. The room instantly reacted. What? RM asked sharply. Jimin rubbed his forehead. I didn't think much of it at the time. At the time, Suga repeated. What happened? Jimin took a deep breath. About 3 weeks ago after practice. Everyone listened carefully. I was leaving the company building late at night. His voice became quieter, and I noticed the same car twice. Jungkook immediately looked at him. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wasn't sure. Jimin looked frustrated now. It sounded ridiculous. Did you see the driver? RM asked. Jimin shook his head. No. License plate? Another shake of the head. Nothing useful. The room fell silent again. 3 weeks ago, exactly around the same time the documents first appeared, the timing felt too perfect to ignore. There's more, Jimin admitted. Everyone immediately looked at him again. What? Taehyung asked. Jimin swallowed hard. A few days later, I received a package. Nobody moved. Nobody even blinked. A package, Jungkook repeated. Jimin nodded. No return address. Suga immediately stepped closer. What was inside? Jimin looked uncomfortable. An old photograph. The room froze. Why didn't you tell us this? RM demanded. Jimin looked genuinely guilty. Because I thought it was fake. What photograph? Jungkook asked. Jimin hesitated. Then he slowly pulled out his wallet. Everyone watched carefully. From a hidden compartment, he removed a folded picture. Old, worn, familiar. The moment he placed it on the table, the room became completely silent. Because it showed the same thing as the photos from the envelope. Child Jimin, child Jungkook, together, smiling. But unlike the others, this picture included a handwritten message on the back. Jimin had never shown anyone because he thought it was some strange prank. Now he wasn't so sure. Jungkook carefully turned the photograph over. The handwriting was faded but readable. Everyone leaned closer. The message contained only one sentence that made every person in the room feel cold. Especially Jungkook's mother. It read, "They took your MEMORAS." For several seconds nobody spoke, nobody could, because suddenly the impossible theory was becoming harder to dismiss. Missing photographs, missing years, shared memory gaps, a disappeared protector, threatening messages. None of it made sense individually, but together they formed something terrifying. Then Jungkook's mother quietly stood up from her chair. Everyone turned toward her. Her face had completely changed. The fear was gone now, replaced by something else, determination. I know where the box is. The room froze. What? Jungkook asked. She nodded slowly. I've always known. Nobody spoke, nobody moved. Then why didn't you tell us? Jimin asked. Her answer came immediately. Because I was hoping nobody would ever find the key. The room became silent once more. Jungkook looked at the silver key sitting on the table, then at his mother, then at the threatening message on his phone. Every path seemed dangerous now. Open the box and risk Jimin's life. Ignore the box and lose the truth forever. Neither option felt safe. Neither option felt right. But before anyone could decide what to do next, a hospital security officer suddenly burst through the conference room door. His face was pale. His breathing was heavy. And the moment everyone saw him, they knew something else had gone wrong. Mr. Jeon, he said urgently, we have a problem. Jungkook stood immediately. What happened? The officer looked directly at him, then at Jimin. His expression somehow became even worse. Someone just tried to access this floor using a stolen hospital ID. Nobody spoke. The officer swallowed hard before continuing. And according to the security cameras, he paused, the suspect was carrying a photograph of Jimin. Suddenly the threat wasn't hiding in the shadows anymore. It was here, in the hospital, closer than anyone had imagined. And for the first time all night, Jungkook realized the warning message might not have been a bluff at all, because whoever was controlling this game was no longer watching from a distance. They were coming closer, much closer, and they seemed determined to reach JIMIN first. The moment the security officer finished speaking, every person in the room was on their feet. The tension that had been building throughout the night suddenly exploded into something much more urgent. This was no longer just about old documents, forgotten memories, or secrets buried in the past. Someone was physically nearby. Someone carrying a photograph of JIMIN had attempted to enter the hospital floor where they were hiding. Jungkook immediately stepped in front of JIMIN without even thinking about it. The movement happened so naturally that nobody commented on it. His protective instincts had taken over completely. "Where is he now?" RM asked. The officer shook his head. "We lost him." Suga's expression darkened instantly. "You lost him." The officer looked embarrassed. He knew exactly where the blind spots were. Nobody liked hearing that. It suggested planning, experience, knowledge. Whoever this person was, they weren't acting randomly. They had prepared for this. "Show us the footage," Jungkook said. The officer nodded immediately. "Right this way." Within minutes, the group had relocated to a private security office on another floor of the hospital. Several monitors displayed camera feeds from throughout the building. Staff members moved quickly between screens while reviewing footage. The atmosphere felt tense and professional, yet even the security team looked unsettled. Jungkook noticed it immediately. "You found something." One of the technicians looked at him and nodded. "Yes." He pressed several buttons. A security recording appeared on the largest monitor. Everyone leaned forward. The footage showed a man entering the hospital through a side entrance approximately 20 minutes earlier. His face was partially hidden beneath a dark cap. A mask covered the lower half of his features. But despite the disguise, there was something unsettling about the way he moved. Calm, deliberate, confident. "Can you zoom in?" Taehyung asked. Technician enlarged the image. Jungkook felt his stomach tighten. The man was holding something in his hand, a photograph, exactly as the officer had described. "Can you make it clearer?" RM asked. The technician enhanced the image further. Slowly, the photograph became visible. The room immediately fell silent because it wasn't just a picture of JIMIN. It was one of the same childhood photographs they had found inside the mysterious envelope. The exact same photograph. "That's impossible," Jin whispered. JIMIN felt cold, very cold. Whoever this person was, they had access to materials that should have been hidden for decades. "Keep playing," Suga said. The technician nodded. The footage continued. The stranger moved through the hospital with surprising ease. He never hesitated, never looked confused. It was as though he already knew the building layout. Then suddenly he stopped in front of a security checkpoint. For several seconds he stared directly at the camera. The room became completely silent. Even though his face remained partially hidden, everyone felt uncomfortable. It almost looked intentional, as if he knew they would eventually review the footage, as if he wanted them to see him. Then the stranger did something nobody expected. He raised the photograph toward the camera, deliberately, slowly. The image filled the screen, child JIMIN, child Jungkook, standing together, smiling. Then the stranger flipped the photograph over. A handwritten message appeared on the back. The security footage wasn't clear enough to read every word, but one sentence stood out immediately. Jungkook's blood ran cold. "Pause it." The technician froze the image. Nobody spoke. The message on the photograph read, "He RMBRD first." The room instantly fell silent. Jungkook stared at the words. "What does that mean?" Nobody answered. Nobody knew. Yet somehow the sentence felt important. Extremely important. JIMIN couldn't stop staring at it either. He felt a strange sensation deep inside his chest, like something trying to surface. A memory, a feeling, something old, something buried. Then suddenly his head began to hurt. A sharp pain exploded behind his eyes. He grabbed the edge of the desk. "JIMIN," Taehyung immediately noticed. "What's wrong?" JIMIN winced. "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. Images were flashing through his mind, fragmented, incomplete, confusing, a playground, rain, a young boy running toward him, someone shouting. A silver necklace, then darkness. The images vanished as quickly as they had appeared. JIMIN's breathing became uneven. Jungkook immediately turned toward him. "Hey!" His voice softened. "Look at me." JIMIN tried to focus. The pain slowly faded, but the feeling remained. "I saw something." The room instantly became alert. "What?" RM asked. JIMIN rubbed his forehead. "I don't know." Frustration filled his voice. "Just pieces." Jungkook looked worried now. "Pieces of what?" JIMIN hesitated. "A memory." Nobody moved, nobody spoke, because this was the first time anything resembling a forgotten memory had surfaced. "What did you see?" Suga asked carefully. Jimin closed his eyes, trying to hold onto the fragments before they disappeared. "Rain," he swallowed hard. "A playground." Then his expression changed. "And someone crying." JUNGKOOK felt a strange chill run down his spine. He didn't know why, but hearing those details made him uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. "Anything else?" Taehyung asked. Jimin opened his eyes again. "A voice." The room became silent. "Whose voice?" Jin asked. Jimin slowly looked toward JUNGKOOK. His answer came almost as a whisper. "I think it was yours." Nobody spoke after that, because for the first time all night, the theory of forgotten memories wasn't just a possibility anymore. It was becoming real. Then suddenly one of the security technicians interrupted. "Wait!" Everyone turned. The technician pointed toward another monitor. "There's more." He pulled up a second camera angle. This footage showed the stranger leaving the hospital. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then the stranger briefly removed his cap while walking past an exterior camera. The image was blurry, not perfect, but good enough. The room instantly froze. JUNGKOOK's mother gasped. Sound was loud enough that everyone turned toward her. Her face had gone completely white. "No," she whispered. Nobody understood. "What?" JUNGKOOK asked. She stared at the screen with tears filling her eyes. "That's impossible." RM immediately looked back at the monitor. "You know him." It wasn't a question. Her lips trembled. "No." Nobody believed her. "Mom." JUNGKOOK stepped closer. "Who is that?" For several seconds she couldn't answer. Then she whispered the name everyone feared hearing. Minseok. The room exploded with shock. Taehyung immediately stood up. "That's not possible." "He's supposed to be missing," Jin added, "for 20 years. But JUNGKOOK's mother never looked away from the screen, because deep down she knew something the others didn't, something she had been too afraid to admit. Her voice shook as she finally spoke. "No." Everyone looked at her. "You're wrong." The room fell silent. "What do you mean?" RM asked carefully. She continued staring at the image, tears running down her face. "Minseok didn't disappear." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "He was taken." The room became completely silent. Because in that moment, everyone realized the story they had been chasing all night might have been built on a lie from the very beginning. And if Minseok had been taken instead of disappearing, then somewhere out there was a person, or a group, responsible for everything that had happened over the last 20 years, including whatever had been erased from JIMIN and JUNGKOOK's memories. And suddenly, the mystery became much bigger than any of them had imagined. The words hung in the air like a shockwave. Minseok didn't disappear, he was taken. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Even the security technicians stopped what they were doing. JUNGKOOK stared at his mother, searching her face for any sign that she might be mistaken. But what he saw only made him more uneasy. She wasn't confused. She wasn't guessing. She looked like someone who had finally revealed a truth she had spent years trying to keep hidden. "Taken by who?" JUNGKOOK asked. His voice sounded quieter now, more controlled, more dangerous. His mother slowly lowered her gaze. "I don't know." Suga immediately shook his head. "No." Everyone looked at him. "You don't keep a secret like this for 20 years if you don't know something." The room became tense again because Suga was right. There was always more. There was always another layer. JUNGKOOK's mother closed her eyes. "I know what happened before he disappeared." Nobody interrupted her this time. Nobody wanted to break the moment. "Then tell us," RM said softly. She took a deep breath. "A few days before Minseok vanished, he came to see me." JUNGKOOK felt his stomach tighten. Every major answer tonight seemed to begin with the same pattern: a meeting, a warning, a secret. He looked terrified. Her voice trembled. "I'd never seen him like that before." JIMIN listened carefully. Every word felt important now. "What did he say?" Taehyung asked. His mother hesitated. Then she whispered, "He told me someone was watching the children." The room instantly froze. "Children," Jin repeated. She nodded. "You." Her eyes moved toward JUNGKOOK, then toward Jimin. "Both of you." A cold silence settled over everyone. JUNGKOOK felt something twist inside his chest. "Why?" She shook her head. "He never explained." "Then what did he explain?" Suga asked. Her hands tightened around each other. "He said there were people looking for something." RM frowned. "Something? A truth." Nobody spoke, because that word had become the center of everything. Truth. Everyone wanted it, everyone feared it, and nobody seemed to fully understand it. "What truth?" JUNGKOOK demanded. His mother looked directly at him. "That's what Minseok was trying to discover." Another silence. Another unanswered question. Then Jimin suddenly remembered something. "The storage box." Everyone turned toward him. He pointed toward the silver key still sitting on the table. If Min-seok left the box behind, maybe that's where he kept everything. RM nodded immediately. The evidence. The answers, Taehyung added. Jungkook stared at the key. The threatening message immediately returned to his mind. Don't open the box if you want JIMIN to stay alive. He hated that message. Hated the way it controlled every decision. Hated the fear it created. Yet ignoring the box no longer seemed possible. Not after everything they had learned. Where is it? Jungkook asked. His mother looked down. Outside Seoul. Everyone waited. An old storage facility. Suga immediately crossed his arms. How far? About 2 hours. Nobody spoke. The distance wasn't the problem was what waited there. Because if someone was threatening JIMIN to stop them from opening the box, then whatever was inside had to be important. Very important. Then suddenly JIMIN felt the strange headache again. Sharp. Immediate. He grabbed the edge of a desk. JIMIN. Jungkook immediately moved toward him. I'm fine. But he wasn't. The pain intensified. This time the images returned stronger than before. Rain, a road, headlights. A young Jungkook crying, then another image appeared, one he had never seen before. A man kneeling in front of him, a man holding his shoulders, a man desperately saying something. JIMIN couldn't hear the words, not clearly, but he recognized the face. His eyes widened. The memory vanished instantly. JIMIN staggered backward. Jungkook caught him before he could fall. What happened? RM asked. Everyone was staring now. JIMIN looked pale. I saw him. The room fell silent. Who? Taehyung asked. JIMIN swallowed hard. Min-seok. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. You're sure? Jungkook asked. JIMIN nodded slowly. I know his face. The statement immediately unsettled everyone, because according to everything JIMIN believed, he should not know Min-seok's face, yet somehow he did. What did you see? RM asked. JIMIN closed his eyes, trying to hold onto the fading memory. He was talking to me. About what? Jin asked. I don't know. Frustration filled his voice. The sound disappeared. Suga looked thoughtful. But you remember seeing him? Jimin nodded. Yes. Another silence. Then Taehyung suddenly spoke. What if the memories aren't gone? Everyone turned toward him. What? RM asked. Taehyung looked toward Jimin, then toward Jungkook. What if they're still there? The room became quiet. Buried, Taehyung continued. Hidden somehow. Jungkook frowned. You're talking like this is a movie. Maybe, Taehyung shrugged. But every time Jimin sees something connected to the past, another piece comes back. Nobody could argue with that. The pattern was becoming obvious. Photographs, messages, names, every clue seemed to trigger fragments of memory. Then suddenly one of the security technicians spoke up. Excuse me. Everyone turned. The technician looked nervous. There's something else you should see. He switched to another camera recording. This one came from outside the hospital. The footage showed the mysterious stranger walking toward a parked vehicle after leaving the building. Nothing unusual at first. Then the stranger briefly turned toward the camera, just long enough for the image to capture his face more clearly. The room instantly froze. Jungkook's mother gasped again, this time louder, much louder. Tears immediately filled her eyes. No. Her voice broke completely. That's not possible. Jungkook stared at the screen. The image wasn't perfect, but it was enough to recognize the face, enough to understand why she was crying, because the man looked exactly like the person in the old photographs, not older, not aged by 20 years, exactly the same, as if time had somehow passed around him without touching him. That's impossible, Jin whispered. He hasn't aged. Nobody disagreed. Nobody could. Then the technician zoomed in further, and that was when everyone noticed something hidden beneath the stranger's jacket. A silver necklace hanging around his neck. The room instantly became silent, because Jimin recognized it immediately. The same necklace from his memory fragment. The same necklace he had seen only minutes earlier inside his vision of the past. Jimin felt his blood run cold, because for the first time all night, he wasn't just remembering pieces anymore. He was beginning to understand something much worse. The man in his memories wasn't just connected to the past. Somehow, impossibly, he was still here, still watching, still moving pieces across the board. And if that was true, then the person threatening Jimin might not be working for Min-seok at all. They might be hiding from him. Then suddenly Jungkook's phone vibrated again. The sound shattered the silence. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Slowly, Jungkook looked down at the screen, another message from the unknown sender. His stomach tightened. He opened it. The moment he read the words, his face lost all color. Jungkook. Jimin asked. Jungkook couldn't answer immediately, Because the message contained a photograph, a live photograph, taken only seconds earlier. A photograph of their conference room. And standing behind the glass window outside the room, partially hidden in the darkness of the hallway, was a familiar figure wearing a dark cap, watching them, smiling. And beneath the image was a single sentence: "You're already too late." The moment JUNGKOOK showed the message to the others, every person in the room felt the same thing. Fear. Not the fear of a mystery anymore, not the fear of secrets from the past. This was immediate, real. Someone had taken a photograph of them only moments earlier. Someone had been close enough to see inside the conference room, close enough to know exactly who was present, close enough to send a warning in real time. "You're already too late." The words seemed to burn into everyone's minds. RM reacted first. "Lock this floor down." The security team immediately sprang into action. Radios crackled, instructions were shouted, cameras switched across multiple monitors, but the damage had already been done. Whoever sent the message wanted them to know something, wanted them to feel something, and judging by the expressions around the room, they had succeeded. JUNGKOOK slowly lowered the phone, his jaw tightened. "No!" Everyone looked at him. The anger in his eyes had returned, stronger than before. "I'm done being scared of messages," nobody interrupted. "I'm done letting someone else control what happens next." His voice was steady now, determined. The confusion that had consumed him for hours was slowly transforming into something else: purpose. "We're opening the box." The room instantly became silent. JIMIN looked at him. "JUNGKOOK, no." JUNGKOOK shook his head. "Think about it." He pointed toward the message. "Every threat is about stopping us." Then toward the photographs. "Every clue leads back to the same place." Finally toward the silver key. "Which means the box matters." RM frowned. "That doesn't mean we should rush into it." "Then what?" JUNGKOOK asked. "Wait," nobody answered, because waiting hadn't helped so far. The mystery had only grown larger, more dangerous, more personal. JUNGKOOK's mother looked terrified. "If you open it," her voice shook, "everything changes." JUNGKOOK looked directly at her. "I think everything already changed." Nobody could argue with that. Then suddenly JIMIN spoke. "I'll go with you." The room turned toward him. JUNGKOOK stared. "What?" JIMIN took a deep breath. "If this really connects to both of us, then we face it together." For a brief moment, something softened in JUNGKOOK's expression, not completely. The hurt from earlier still remained, the betrayal, the unanswered questions, but despite everything, hearing JIMIN say that mattered. It always mattered. Taehyung stood up immediately. "Then I'm coming too." Jin sighed. "You knew I wasn't staying behind." Suga rolled his eyes. "As if management would ever forgive us if we let you idiots drive into a mystery alone." Even RM smiled slightly. "Looks like we're all going." For the first time all night, the atmosphere shifted. Not toward safety, not toward relief, but toward unity. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. JUNGKOOK's mother watched them silently, her eyes filled with tears again. Because she remembered another group of people who had once said the same thing. 20 years ago, before everything went wrong, before Min Seok disappeared, before the lies began, then suddenly a security officer approached. "The vehicle is ready," RM nodded. "Good." The plan formed quickly after that. Leave the hospital immediately. Travel to the storage facility before sunrise. Open the box. Find the truth. Simple in theory, terrifying in reality. Yet as everyone prepared to leave, JIMIN couldn't shake the strange feeling growing inside him. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. The closer they moved toward the truth, the more intense his memories became. Fragments continued flashing through his mind. Faces, voices, rain, a road, a silver necklace, and always the same feeling. Fear. Not his own fear, someone else's. As if the memories belonged to another person trying desperately to warn him about something. The group moved through a secured hospital exit 30 minutes later. Rain continued falling outside. The parking lot was mostly empty. Security personnel surrounded the vehicles. Everything seemed normal, too normal. JUNGKOOK noticed it too. "Something feels off," RM nodded. "Stay alert." The members quickly entered the vehicles. JUNGKOOK and JIMIN ended up in the same car alongside RM and Suga. Taehyung, Jin, and the others followed behind. Within minutes, they were moving through the dark streets of Seoul. Nobody talked much during the first part of the drive. Everyone remained lost in their own thoughts. JUNGKOOK stared out the window. JIMIN sat beside him. The silence between them felt different now. Not hostile, just heavy. There were too many questions left unanswered. Finally, JUNGKOOK spoke. "Why didn't you tell me?" JIMIN looked over. "About what?" "The photograph." JUNGKOOK's voice remained quiet. "The one you received weeks ago." Jimin looked down, because I thought it was fake. And if it wasn't, Jimin hesitated. Then I was afraid. Jungkook frowned. Of what? Jimin's answer came instantly. Losing you. The words surprised both of them. The car became silent. Even RM and Suga exchanged a glance. Jimin immediately looked away, but it was too late. The truth had already slipped out. Jungkook stared at him for several seconds. You thought I'd leave. Jimin laughed softly. There was sadness in it. Tonight you've looked at me like you don't even know who I am. Jungkook couldn't deny it, because for a while that had been true. The secrets had made everything feel uncertain. Yet now things felt different. Maybe. Jungkook looked out the window again. But I know one thing. Jimin waited. Whatever happened back then, Jungkook's eyes narrowed. None of this feels like your fault. The words hit Jimin harder than expected, because part of him had been blaming himself all night for the collapse. For the documents, for the secrets. Hearing Jungkook say that mattered more than he wanted to admit. Then suddenly the vehicle's headlights illuminated something ahead on the road. RM immediately sat forward. What's that? The driver slowed down. Everyone looked ahead. A car parked sideways across the road, blocking it completely. Jungkook felt his stomach drop. Keep driving, Suga said immediately. But before the driver could react, another vehicle appeared behind them. Then another. Then another. RM's face darkened instantly. We're boxed in. The rain continued falling as all the vehicles came to a stop. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then the headlights from the car ahead switched off. Darkness swallowed the road. A few seconds later, a single figure stepped out of the shadows. Calm, unhurried, familiar. Jimin felt his blood run cold the moment he saw the silver necklace around the stranger's neck. Jungkook's breathing stopped, because even from a distance, the face was unmistakable. The same face from the photographs. The same face from the security footage. The same face that should not have existed after 20 years. Min-seok slowly stepped into the rain and looked directly toward their vehicle. Then, to everyone's horror, he smiled. And for the first time since this nightmare began, it became clear that he hadn't been following them. He had been leading them exactly where he wanted them to go. The rain hammered against the vehicles as silence swallowed the road. Nobody inside the car moved. Nobody even seemed to breathe. Min-seok stood in the middle of the darkness, illuminated only by the headlights reflecting off the wet pavement. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He looked completely calm, as if he had been expecting this meeting for years. Jungkook stared through the windshield, unable to take his eyes off him. The photographs had been real. The security footage had been real. The memories were real. Somehow, impossibly, the man everyone believed had vanished 20 years ago was standing directly in front of them. This can't be happening, Jin whispered through the radio connection from the vehicle behind them. Nobody answered, because nobody had an explanation. RM immediately reached for his phone. Call security. Suga shook his head. And tell them what? RM didn't answer. The truth was impossible to explain. How exactly were they supposed to report a man who should have disappeared decades ago? Meanwhile, Jimin couldn't stop staring at the silver necklace hanging around Min-seok's neck. The moment he saw it, another sharp pain exploded behind his eyes. His breathing became uneven. The memories returned immediately, stronger than before. Clearer than before. A rainy night. A younger Min-seok kneeling beside him, someone shouting in the distance. A frightened child gripping a silver necklace, then a voice. This time the voice was clearer, much clearer. No matter what happens, protect Jungkook. Jimin suddenly gasped. Jungkook immediately turned toward him. Jimin! But Jimin barely heard him. The memory vanished again before he could grab onto it, leaving behind only confusion and fear. Outside, Min-seok slowly raised one hand. Not threateningly, almost like a greeting. Then he pointed toward Jungkook's vehicle, directly toward Jimin. The atmosphere instantly changed. Suga noticed first. He's looking at Jimin. Jungkook's expression darkened. I know, the radio crackled. Taehyung's voice came through. Don't get out. RM immediately agreed. Nobody leaves the vehicles. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then something unexpected happened. Min-seok reached into his jacket and removed a folded piece of paper. He placed it carefully on the wet road. Then he stepped backward, slowly, deliberately, as if inviting them to approach. What is he doing? Jin asked through the radio. Nobody knew. The stranger continued backing away until he disappeared into the darkness beyond the headlights. Then he was gone, completely gone. The road became silent again except for the sound of rain. Jungkook frowned. Where did he go? RM opened the door slightly and looked around. Nothing. No movement. No footsteps. No sign of him. It was as though he had vanished into the night. Suga cursed quietly. I don't like this. Neither did anyone else, yet the folded paper remained lying in the middle of the road, waiting, almost daring them to pick it up. Finally, JUNGKOOK opened the door. I'm getting it. RM immediately grabbed his arm. No, we're not leaving it there. That's exactly what he wants. JUNGKOOK looked toward the paper, then toward the darkness where Min Seok had disappeared. Maybe. His jaw tightened. But I'm done running from answers. Before anyone could stop him, he stepped into the rain. JIMIN followed instantly. JIMIN, RM started. I'm not letting him go alone. Within seconds, both of them stood on the empty road. Rain soaked their clothes. The wind felt colder now. The darkness beyond the headlights seemed endless. JUNGKOOK slowly approached the folded paper. Every instinct told him it was dangerous. Every instinct told him to walk away, yet he couldn't. Not anymore. He picked it up. The paper felt old despite the rain, as though it had been protected carefully. Deliberately, JIMIN moved closer. What's inside? JUNGKOOK unfolded it. The moment he read the contents, his entire body froze. JUNGKOOK, no answer. What is it? JIMIN stepped closer. Then he saw the page himself. The paper contained a handwritten letter, a very short letter addressed directly to JUNGKOOK. The handwriting matched the notes from the photographs, matched the warnings, matched everything. And at the bottom was a signature, Kang Min Seok. The letter itself contained only 3 sentences. JUNGKOOK read them again, then again, unable to believe what he was seeing. Finally, he handed the paper to JIMIN. JIMIN felt his stomach drop as he read the words. JUNGKOOK, they lied to both of us. The box was never meant for you. It belongs to JIMIN. The truth you're looking for isn't about your past, it's about his. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them moved. The rain continued falling around them. But suddenly, the entire mystery felt different. Wrong, twisted, because if Min Seok was telling the truth, then everything they had assumed might be backwards. JUNGKOOK slowly looked toward JIMIN. What does that mean? JIMIN shook his head. I don't know. But deep down, he was beginning to fear the answer, because every clue had been pulling them toward him from the very beginning. The missing photographs, the hidden records, the threats, the warnings, the memories. What if JUNGKOOK wasn't the center of the mystery? What if he never had been? Then suddenly another memory hit him, stronger than any before. JIMIN staggered backward. JUNGKOOK immediately caught him. This time the memory didn't vanish immediately, it stayed. Long enough for him to see more, a small room, bright lights, adults arguing, a younger version of himself crying. Then Min Seok standing between him and someone else, protecting him, hiding him, the image blurred. Then another voice appeared. Different this time, colder, more frightening. If the child remembers, everything collapses. JIMIN's eyes snapped open. His heart was racing. JUNGKOOK stared at him. What happened? JIMIN struggled to breathe. I heard them. Who? RM asked as he approached. JIMIN looked terrified, truly terrified. The people Min Seok was hiding me from. Nobody spoke. Because for the first time, the forgotten memories weren't just fragments anymore. They were becoming a story, a dangerous story, one someone had spent 20 years trying to bury. Then suddenly the radio inside RM's pocket crackled violently. A voice came through, panicked, urgent. RM, it was Taehyung. Get back in the vehicles now. Everyone froze. Why? RM demanded. Taehyung's next words immediately sent fear through the entire group. Because the storage facility. His voice shook. It's on fire. The road fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Taehyung continued. And according to the news reports, he hesitated. The fire started 20 minutes before we left the hospital. JUNGKOOK slowly looked down at the letter still clutched in his hand. Min Seok had known. Somehow he had known before anyone else. And if the storage box was inside that burning facility, then someone wasn't just trying to stop them anymore. Someone was trying to destroy the truth forever. But what terrified JUNGKOOK most wasn't the fire. It was the realization that Min Seok seemed to be several moves ahead of everyone. As if he already knew exactly what was going to happen next. And if that was true, then meeting him on this road had never been an accident. It had been the beginning of something much bigger, something much more dangerous. And somewhere out there, hidden behind years of lies and forgotten memories, was a truth powerful enough to make people burn buildings to the ground just to keep it buried. For several seconds after hearing Taehyung's warning, nobody moved. The rain continued falling across the empty road while the reality of the situation settled over them. The storage facility was burning. The place that supposedly contained the final answers was already being destroyed before they could reach it. JUNGKOOK felt anger rising inside him again. Every time they got closer to the truth, someone was already there waiting. One step ahead, one move ahead, controlling everything. No. He clenched his fists. We're still going. RM immediately turned toward him. JUNGKOOK, if the fire started 20 minutes ago, then maybe something survived. His eyes moved toward the darkness where Min Seok had disappeared. Or maybe he wanted us to see it. Nobody liked that possibility. Suga looked thoughtful. Actually, everyone turned toward him. What if that's exactly what happened? JUNGKOOK frowned. What do you mean? Suga crossed his arms. Think about it. His eyes narrowed. Min Seok stops us before we reach the facility. Then he pointed toward the letter. Tells us the box belongs to JIMIN. Then toward the radio. And suddenly we learn the building is burning. The room became silent. You're saying this was planned, Jin said. I'm saying someone wants us looking in a specific direction. Suga's answer only made everything more complicated, because it made sense. Too much sense. RM rubbed his forehead. Then the question becomes who? Nobody answered. Because there were now too many possibilities. The unknown sender. The people Min Seok claimed were hiding the truth. Whoever erased the memories. Whoever started the fire. The list kept growing. JIMIN remained silent. His attention wasn't on the fire. It wasn't even on Min Seok anymore. It was on the memories. They kept getting stronger. Every new clue seemed to unlock another piece. Another image. Another voice. Another forgotten moment. And the deeper those memories went, the more afraid he became. Then suddenly his phone vibrated. The sound immediately drew everyone's attention. JIMIN frowned. Unknown number. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Slowly he opened the message. His blood ran cold instantly. What is it? JUNGKOOK asked. JIMIN couldn't answer immediately. He simply handed over the phone. JUNGKOOK looked at the screen. The message contained a photograph, an old photograph, different from the others, much older, much clearer. And unlike every previous image, this one showed adults instead of children. JUNGKOOK immediately recognized one person, his mother. Beside her stood JIMIN's father, then Min Seok. But it was the fourth person in the picture that made JUNGKOOK freeze. Who is that? RM asked quietly. Nobody answered because the face felt familiar. Not familiar in the sense that they knew him, familiar in the sense that they had seen him before, somewhere, recently. Then Taehyung suddenly spoke through the radio. Wait! Everyone looked up. That's him. The room instantly became silent. Who? JUNGKOOK asked. Taehyung's voice sounded shaken. The man from the memory sketch. Nobody understood immediately. Then RM's expression changed. The sketch your father kept. Taehyung nodded. The one connected to Min Seok's disappearance. Nobody spoke, because suddenly a new person had entered the story, a person hidden in the background all along. Then JUNGKOOK noticed something written beneath the photograph, a handwritten note. He read it aloud. Ask your mother about Chairman Han. The silence that followed was immediate, heavy, terrifying. Slowly, everyone turned toward JUNGKOOK's mother. Her reaction answered the question before she even spoke. All color drained from her face. No, she whispered, not him. JUNGKOOK felt a chill run through his body. You know who that is? She shook her head once, then nodded, then looked away. The fear in her eyes was unlike anything they had seen all night. Mom! JUNGKOOK stepped closer. Who is Chairman Han? Tears immediately appeared. Someone we should never have crossed. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because for the first time, her fear wasn't directed at Min Seok. It was directed at someone else entirely. Someone she considered far more dangerous. What did he do? RM asked carefully. She closed her eyes. He controlled everything. The room became silent. Everything, Suga repeated. She nodded slowly. The investigation. The records. The cover-up. Each word landed like a hammer. JUNGKOOK stared at her. You're saying one person controlled all of that? Her answer came immediately. Not one person. Everyone waited. An organization. Nobody breathed, because suddenly the mystery was becoming larger than any family secret. Larger than forgotten memories, larger than Min Seok himself. What organization? Jin asked. JUNGKOOK's mother looked down. I don't know its real name. Then what do you know? RM pressed. She hesitated, then finally whispered, only that Chairman Han was the one everyone feared. The atmosphere grew colder. Then suddenly JIMIN felt another memory surface, this time stronger than ever before. His vision blurred, the road disappeared. The rain disappeared, everything vanished, he was somewhere else. A bright room, white walls, adults arguing, loud voices. Panic, fear, then he saw himself, younger, much younger, sitting in a chair, crying. Min Seok stood beside him, protecting him. Then another man entered the room, a man wearing glasses, a calm smile, a frightening smile. The moment JIMIN saw his face, terror flooded through him, because somehow, impossibly, he recognized him. Chairman Han, the memory became clearer. The man looked down at young JIMIN and said something, a sentence that echoed through the years, a sentence that made JIMIN's blood run cold. When he forgets, everything belongs to us. JIMIN gasped. The memory shattered, reality returned. The rain, the road, the vehicles, everyone staring at him. JUNGKOOK immediately grabbed his shoulders. JIMIN. His voice sounded distant. What happened? JIMIN's hands were shaking. I saw him. The room fell silent. Chairman Han. Nobody spoke, nobody moved. I remember him. Those 3 words changed everything. Because up until now, Chairman Han had been a name, a shadow, a piece of a mystery. Now he was connected directly to JIMIN's memories, directly to the missing years, directly to whatever had been erased. What did you see? RM asked. JIMIN struggled to breathe. He knew me. The group froze. What? JUNGKOOK whispered. JIMIN slowly looked up. Fear filled his eyes. Not just me. He swallowed hard. He knew both of us. The silence became unbearable. Then suddenly another vehicle appeared in the distance. Its headlights cut through the rain, fast, too fast. Everyone turned toward it. The car wasn't slowing down. It was coming directly toward them. RM immediately reacted. Move! The members scattered away from the center of the road as the vehicle sped closer. The engine roared through the darkness. Then at the last possible second, the car stopped. The driver's door opened. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. A man stepped out holding a black metal briefcase. The rain soaked his suit instantly, yet he looked completely calm, completely controlled. Slowly he removed his glasses. JUNGKOOK's mother gasped louder than ever before. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her, because standing there in the middle of the storm was the same man from the photograph, the same face from JIMIN's memory. The same person they had just been discussing, Chairman Han. And the moment he smiled at them, everyone understood the terrifying truth. Min-seok had never been the enemy. He had been trying to warn them, because the real enemy had finally arrived in person. The rain seemed louder now, heavier, almost violent, yet nobody paid attention to it. Every eye was fixed on the man standing beside the black vehicle, Chairman Han. For years he had existed only as a name buried inside old documents, whispered warnings, and fragmented memories. Now he was standing directly in front of them, real, calm, smiling. And somehow that smile was more unsettling than any threat they had received all night. JUNGKOOK immediately stepped closer to JIMIN. Not consciously. Not deliberately, it simply happened. His protective instincts moved faster than his thoughts. Chairman Han noticed. His smile widened slightly. Interesting. His voice was smooth, controlled, the kind of voice that never needed to be loud, even after all these years. Nobody answered him. RM stepped forward. Who are you? Chairman Han laughed softly. I think we've already established that. His eyes moved toward JUNGKOOK's mother. Haven't we? She looked terrified, truly terrified. More frightened than when she collapsed, more frightened than when Min-seok appeared. Her entire body seemed frozen. You should have left the past alone, Chairman Han said calmly. Nobody spoke. The man carried himself with complete confidence, not the confidence of someone hopping to win, the confidence of someone who believed he already had. Suga immediately noticed it too. He's not worried. RM nodded slightly, because Chairman Han wasn't acting like a cornered man. He wasn't acting like someone exposed. He looked like someone arriving exactly where he expected to be. Then his eyes settled on JIMIN. The atmosphere instantly changed. It's been a long time. JIMIN felt a chill run through his body. I don't know you. Chairman Han smiled again. No, he nodded. That was the idea. The road fell silent. Nobody moved, nobody breathed, because that answer was far too specific, far too confident. JIMIN's stomach twisted. What does that mean? Chairman Han slowly opened the black briefcase he was carrying. It means memory is a fragile thing. Nobody liked where this conversation was going, not one bit. From inside the case, Chairman Han removed a thick folder, old, worn, filled with papers, then he held it up. You all came looking for the truth. His gaze moved across the group. So here it is. JUNGKOOK narrowed his eyes. Just like that. Chairman Han shrugged. You're already close enough. Nobody trusted him, not for a second. But everyone wanted answers. Chairman Han slowly stepped forward and placed the folder onto the wet hood of one of the vehicles. Everything you're searching for is inside. The rain continued soaking the documents, yet he didn't seem concerned, almost as if the papers themselves didn't matter anymore. Don't touch it, RM warned. But JUNGKOOK couldn't stop staring. Because after hours of chasing clues, confronting lies, and uncovering secrets, the answers were suddenly right in front of him. Too easy, much too easy. Chairman Han noticed his hesitation. Go ahead. His smile returned. Read it. Nobody moved. Finally, Suga stepped closer. Why are you doing this? The older man looked genuinely amused. Because you're asking the wrong questions. The answer immediately irritated Suga. Then what's the right question? Chairman Han's eyes shifted toward JIMIN. The right question is not what happened. The atmosphere became tense. The right question is who? Nobody understood, not completely, not yet. Then Chairman Han pointed directly at JIMIN, because everything began with him. The road fell silent again. JUNGKOOK immediately stepped in front of JIMIN. Enough! Chairman Han chuckled softly, still protecting him. JUNGKOOK's jaw tightened. Say what you came to say. For the first time, the smile disappeared from Chairman Han's face. Very well. He looked directly at JIMIN. You were never supposed to remember. The words hit like a shockwave. JIMIN felt another sharp pain behind his eyes, stronger than before, much stronger. The memories surged instantly. White walls, bright lights, adults arguing, Minseok shouting, a frightened child crying, then something new, something he had never seen before himself, sitting inside a room, holding a small silver key. The same key now sitting inside JUNGKOOK's pocket. JIMIN staggered. JUNGKOOK immediately caught him. JIMIN! But JIMIN barely heard him. The memories kept coming, faster now, more complete. He saw Chairman Han, younger, standing inside the room. He saw Minseok trying to stop him. He saw documents, files, names, then one sentence. A sentence spoken by Minseok himself. If they find out who he is, they'll never let him go. JIMIN gasped as reality slammed back into place. His breathing became uneven. Everyone was staring at him. What happened? RM asked urgently. JIMIN looked terrified. I remember. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. What? JUNGKOOK whispered. JIMIN slowly looked toward Chairman Han, then toward JUNGKOOK. His hands were shaking uncontrollably. The box. The road became silent. What about it? Suga asked. JIMIN swallowed hard. There was never just one box. Chairman Han's expression changed immediately. For the first time all night, he stopped smiling. Everyone noticed. Every single person noticed. JIMIN stared at him. Suddenly another memory clicked into place. Another missing piece. There were two. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Two boxes, Taehyung asked through the radio. JIMIN nodded slowly. One was the decoy. Nobody spoke. Chairman Han's eyes narrowed. Careful! It was the first warning he had given all night, the first sign of discomfort. And that alone told them JIMIN was getting close to something important, very important. The storage facility, JIMIN continued. The one that burned. He looked directly at Chairman Han. That wasn't the real location. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed, because suddenly everything made sense. The threats, the fire, the warnings, the desperate attempts to stop them. They had all been focused on the wrong place. Chairman Han took a slow step forward. You don't remember enough. His voice was colder now, more dangerous. JIMIN met his gaze. Maybe not. Then another memory surfaced. A final fragment, small but devastating. He saw himself as a child handing something to Minseok, a photograph. Behind it was an address, a different address, not the storage facility, somewhere else. Somewhere hidden. JIMIN's eyes widened. I know where it is. The entire road froze. Chairman Han's expression darkened immediately. The calm confidence vanished. For the first time all night, he looked worried, genuinely worried. RM noticed first. So did Suga. So did JUNGKOOK. You do, JUNGKOOK whispered. JIMIN nodded slowly. I remember now. Nobody spoke. The rain continued falling around them. Then Chairman Han suddenly laughed, a short laugh, empty, dangerous. Then we're out of time. Nobody liked the sound of that, not even a little. JUNGKOOK stepped forward. What does that mean? Chairman Han looked toward the sky, then toward the road behind them. It means he's coming. The atmosphere instantly changed. Who? RM demanded. Chairman Han's smile returned. But this time it wasn't confident, it wasn't controlled. It looked nervous, almost fearful. The one person I hoped would stay buried. Nobody understood. Then headlights appeared in the distance behind Chairman Han. Bright, fast, approaching rapidly through the rain. Chairman Han immediately turned toward them. And for the first time since arriving, genuine fear appeared in his eyes, because whoever was inside that approaching vehicle frightened him far more than BTS, the police, or the truth ever could. And as the vehicle raced toward them through the storm, everyone realized another player had just entered the game. A player powerful enough to make even Chairman Han afraid. The headlights cut through the rain like a blade. Fast, relentless, growing larger with every second. Nobody on the road moved. Nobody knew what to expect anymore. The night had already shattered every assumption they had made. Min Seok was alive. Chairman Han was real. The storage facility had been a trap. Jimin's memories were returning. And now someone else was coming, someone powerful enough to make Chairman Han afraid. That fact alone terrified everyone. JUNGKOOK immediately positioned himself in front of Jimin again. RM noticed it but said nothing. Nobody did, because at this point it felt natural, automatic. Every instinct inside JUNGKOOK was screaming the same thing: protect him. The thought appeared so suddenly that it surprised even him. Protect him. The exact words from Jimin's memory. The same words Min Seok had supposedly spoken years ago. JUNGKOOK frowned. Something about that felt important. Then the approaching vehicle finally stopped. Water sprayed across the road. The engine shut off. Silence followed, heavy, suffocating. Chairman Han took a slow step backward. Nobody missed it, nobody. For the first time all night, he was retreating. Then the driver's door opened. A figure stepped out, tall, calm, wearing a dark coat soaked by the rain. The face remained hidden beneath shadows at first, but the reaction around them was immediate. Chairman Han's expression changed completely. Not fear anymore. Panic. Real panic. "No," he whispered. The stranger began walking toward them. Unhurried, controlled, every step seemed deliberate. Then the light finally reached his face. JUNGKOOK's mother gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears immediately filled her eyes. Impossible. Nobody understood, not yet, but then Taehyung suddenly spoke through the radio. His voice sounded stunned. "I know him." The road fell silent. "What?" RM asked. Taehyung sounded as if he couldn't believe his own words. He hesitated. "That's my father's friend." Nobody moved. "The investigator." The atmosphere instantly changed. "The investigator," Jin repeated. Taehyung nodded. "The one who disappeared while looking into Min Seok's case." The stranger stopped several meters away. Rain streamed down his face, yet he looked completely unbothered, completely calm. Then he looked directly at Chairman Han. 20 years. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous. Chairman Han said nothing. "That's how long you've been running." Nobody breathed. Because suddenly the balance of power had shifted. Completely. Chairman Han wasn't in control anymore. The confidence was gone. The smile was gone. All that remained was fear. The stranger's gaze slowly moved toward Jimin, then toward JUNGKOOK. Something softened in his expression, only briefly. Then it disappeared. "You found them." Nobody understood who he was talking to, until another voice answered from the darkness. "Eventually." Every head turned. A second figure stepped from the shadows beyond the road. Calm, familiar, wearing the same silver necklace, Min Seok. JUNGKOOK felt his heart stop, because suddenly everything made sense. They had never been enemies. The investigator and Min Seok knew each other. They were working together. Chairman Han cursed under his breath. "You should both be dead." The road became silent. Min Seok smiled faintly. "That was the plan." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke, because the implications were enormous. If Chairman Han thought they were dead, then everything over the last 20 years had been built on a lie. A lie designed to keep them hidden. The investigator slowly approached. "You spent 2 decades hunting ghosts." His eyes narrowed. "While we spent 2 decades protecting the truth." JUNGKOOK looked toward Jimin, then back toward the men, protecting the truth. The phrase sounded familiar now. Everything sounded familiar. Then Min Seok looked directly at Jimin. "Do you remember the address?" The road became completely silent. Jimin hesitated. The memories continued shifting inside his mind. Fragments becoming clearer, pieces locking together. Then suddenly he saw it. Not a building, not a street, a church, old, hidden outside the city. His eyes widened. "Yes," Chairman Han immediately reacted. "No." For the first time all night, genuine desperation appeared in his voice. Everyone noticed. Min Seok noticed too. "Then it's still there." Jimin nodded slowly. "I think so." Nobody spoke. Because whatever was hidden at that location clearly mattered. A lot. Then the investigator looked toward RM. "You need to leave." RM frowned. "What? Now?" His answer came instantly. "Before more people arrive." Nobody liked the sound of that. "More people?" Suga asked. Min Seok nodded. Chairman Han wasn't acting alone. The atmosphere immediately grew colder. JUNGKOOK's mother closed her eyes, as if she had expected those words all along. "How many?" RM asked. The investigator looked toward the dark road behind Chairman Han. "Enough!" Nobody spoke after that, because everyone understood what he meant. Then suddenly headlights appeared again. Not one set, several, far in the distance, approaching quickly, very quickly. Chairman Han noticed first, then Min Seok, then everyone else. The investigator immediately turned toward JUNGKOOK and Jimin. "Listen carefully." His voice became urgent. The address is the only thing that matters now. Nobody interrupted. Everything you're looking for is there. He looked directly at JIMIN. Including who you really are. The words hit like a shockwave. JIMIN froze. What? But the investigator didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward JUNGKOOK. And why they separated you? The road became silent. JUNGKOOK felt his stomach drop. Separated them, not forgot each other, not lost contact. Separated, deliberately, intentionally. Then another memory slammed into him, harder than anything before. Rain. A younger JIMIN crying, himself reaching toward him, someone pulling them apart, a man shouting, then darkness. JUNGKOOK staggered. JIMIN immediately caught him this time. Both of them stared at each other. Shock, confusion, fear, because for the first time they had remembered the same moment, the exact same moment, and it changed everything. Then the distant headlights multiplied. 5 vehicles, 6, maybe more, racing toward them through the storm. Min Seok's expression darkened. They're here. Chairman Han suddenly smiled. The smile returned so quickly it felt wrong, dangerous. Too late. Nobody liked that, not one bit. Then he looked directly at JIMIN. If you reach that church, his voice lowered, you'll wish you hadn't. The warning hung in the air, heavy, threatening. Then chaos erupted. Tires screamed. Doors opened. Figures began emerging from the approaching vehicles. Too many to count. Rain poured from the sky. The road transformed into a battlefield of secrets, memories, and unfinished truths. And standing at the center of it all were JIMIN and JUNGKOOK. Closer than ever to the answer they had been chasing all night. Yet for the first time, neither of them was sure they actually wanted to find it. Because every step toward the truth seemed to reveal something even more terrifying waiting underneath. And somewhere beyond the storm, hidden inside an old church forgotten by the world, waited the one secret everyone had been willing to lie, disappear, burn evidence, and destroy lives to protect. The secret that would finally reveal why JIMIN and JUNGKOOK had been separated 20 years ago, and why certain people were still willing to kill to keep them apart. The moment the first group of men stepped out of the approaching vehicles, everyone understood that the night had reached its most dangerous point. Rain crashed against the road. Headlights illuminated the darkness from every direction. Chairman Han stood in the middle of it all with a strange smile on his face, while Min Seok and the investigator immediately moved into position as if they had prepared for this moment long ago. JUNGKOOK's heart pounded, not because of the men surrounding them. Not because of Chairman Han, not even because of the growing danger. It was because of the memory he had just seen. JIMIN crying, someone pulling them apart, his own voice screaming. The image felt more real than anything else that had happened that night. JUNGKOOK! JIMIN's voice pulled him back to reality. Their eyes met. Neither needed to explain what they were feeling. Both had seen the same moment. Both had remembered the same pain. And somehow that terrified them more than the armed men surrounding the road. We have to go, RM said sharply. The investigator nodded immediately. Now, nobody argued. There was no time left. The approaching vehicles continued stopping one after another. More figures emerged. Too many figures, too organized, too coordinated. This wasn't random. This was planned. Get them to the church, Min Seok said. The investigator looked toward JUNGKOOK and JIMIN. You two stay together. Words felt deliberate, meaningful, as if separating them would somehow be dangerous. Then Chairman Han laughed. The sound cut through the rain. You're still protecting them. Min Seok's eyes narrowed. Unlike you. Nobody moved. The tension felt unbearable. Then Chairman Han looked directly at JIMIN. Ask him. Everyone froze. Ask who? JIMIN demanded. Chairman Han pointed at Min Seok. Ask him what really happened 20 years ago. The road became silent. Min Seok's expression immediately changed. For the first time all night, discomfort appeared on his face. JIMIN noticed. So did JUNGKOOK. What is he talking about? JUNGKOOK asked. Nobody answered immediately. Chairman Han smiled again. There it is. His eyes never left Min Seok. The party doesn't want you to know. The atmosphere shifted instantly. RM cursed under his breath. This was exactly what Chairman Han wanted. Doubt, division, distrust. Yet despite knowing that, nobody could ignore the reaction they had just seen from Min Seok. Because it was real. Something was bothering him, something important. Min Seok, JIMIN said quietly. What isn't he telling us? Rain continued falling. The older man remained silent for several seconds, then he looked down. Not here. Chairman Han laughed again. Of course. Nobody liked that answer, especially JIMIN. Because after hours of secrets and lies, he was tired of hearing not now, not here. Later, every answer seemed trapped behind another wall. Another excuse. Another hidden truth. Then suddenly one of the approaching men shouted. The group began moving forward, fast. "Go!" the investigator yelled. Chaos exploded instantly. Everyone moved. RM grabbed Jungkook's arm. Suga pulled Jimin toward the vehicles. Taehyung and Jin quickly repositioned behind them. Rain blurred everything. Shouting echoed across the road. For several moments, confusion swallowed the entire scene. Then the group reached the vehicles and accelerated away. Tires spun across the wet pavement. Headlights cut through the storm. Behind them, the road disappeared into darkness. Nobody spoke during the first 10 minutes of the drive. The atmosphere inside the vehicle felt suffocating. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. Chairman Han's words. Ask him what really happened 20 years ago. Finally, Jimin broke the silence. "Tell me." Min Seok sat in the passenger seat of the lead vehicle. He didn't look surprised by the question, almost as if he had been expecting it. "Tell me what happened." The older man stared out the window. "You already know part of it." "Not enough." Jimin's voice became sharper. "I want the truth." Min Seok closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. "The truth isn't simple." Nobody responded, because they were tired of hearing that too. "Try us," Suga muttered. The vehicle fell silent again. Then finally Min Seok spoke. 20 years ago, someone discovered something they weren't supposed to discover. Everyone listened carefully. "A document." "What document?" RM asked. Min Seok hesitated. "One connected to Jimin." The vehicle immediately became silent. Jungkook looked toward Jimin. Jimin stared straight ahead, neither spoke. "What kind of document?" Jin asked through the radio. Min Seok looked troubled. "The kind that could destroy powerful people." Nobody liked where this was going, not at all. "And what did that have to do with us?" Jungkook asked. Min Seok slowly turned around. His eyes settled on both of them. "Everything." The answer sent a chill through the vehicle. "Because once they realized the document existed." He paused. "They came for Jimin." Silence, absolute silence. Jimin felt his chest tighten. "Why?" His voice sounded smaller than before, more vulnerable. Min Seok's expression softened. "Because you were connected to it." Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Then Jungkook spoke. "Connected how?" Min Seok looked away. "That's what's inside the church." The frustration inside the vehicle became immediate. Another answer hidden behind another destination. Another truth delayed. Yet this time felt different, because Min Seok wasn't avoiding the question. He looked genuinely afraid to answer it. Then suddenly Jimin remembered something. A fragment, small but clear. A room. A woman crying, his own name. Then another phrase, a phrase that made his blood run cold. "Protected child." Jimin's eyes widened. Everyone immediately noticed. "What?" Jungkook asked. Jimin struggled to process the memory. "I heard those words before," nobody interrupted. "Protected child." The phrase echoed through his mind, familiar, important, dangerous. Then Min Seok's face lost all color. The reaction answered the question before he spoke. "You remember that?" The vehicle became silent. Jimin slowly nodded. Min Seok closed his eyes. "Then it's happening faster than I thought." Nobody understood. "What's happening?" RM asked. The older man looked directly at Jimin. "Your memories are coming back." Nobody spoke because that much was obvious. Then Min Seok continued. "Once they all return," he hesitated, "everything changes." The statement hung in the air, heavy, ominous. Then suddenly Jungkook noticed something outside. The rain was beginning to weaken. The city lights were disappearing behind them. They were entering a more isolated area now. Forests, empty roads, darkness. The church couldn't be far away, and somehow that realization made everyone even more nervous. Because after hours of searching, they were finally approaching the place where all the answers waited. Yet instead of relief, they felt dread. Then Min Seok spoke again, his voice quieter this time. "When we get there." Everyone looked toward him. "Whatever happens," he paused, "don't let them separate you." The vehicle instantly became silent. Jungkook and Jimin exchanged another look. Neither spoke. Neither needed to, because deep down, both of them were beginning to realize the terrifying possibility they had been avoiding all night. What if the reason they had forgotten wasn't random? What if the reason they had been separated wasn't accidental? What if someone had spent 20 years keeping them apart for a very specific reason? And what if the truth waiting inside that church was powerful enough to explain everything? The memories, the lies, the disappearances, the threats, the fire, the deaths. Every single piece. Then suddenly the church appeared in the distance, hidden among dark trees, old, silent, waiting. And the moment Jimin saw it, a single memory returned with perfect clarity. A memory so complete that it nearly stopped his heart. Because he had been there before. 20 years ago, and whatever happened inside that church was the reason none of their lives were ever the same again.